If the president were standing here with me today, he would say he works for the American people. I work for him, so I also work for the American people. But his objective and his commitment is to bring transparency and truth back to government, to share the truth even when it's hard to hear.
3, he didn't exert executive privilege over any contents of the report. He was transparent. He had nothing to hide.
The Justice Department informing House Republicans President Biden will not release the audio of his interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur, claiming executive privilege. It's a move the DOJ says effectively shields Attorney General Merrick Garland from any criminal exposure as Republican lawmakers push to hold Garland in contempt.
Well, here we have another example of Mr. bringing back trust and transparency to government, doing exactly the opposite of that. Joe Biden is blocking the release of audio tapes from his meeting with Special Counsel Robert Hur. If you're wondering why Mr. Trust and Transparency would be doing this, it's pretty simple. The meeting went so poorly that Robert Hur, when he wrote his report, said that Joe Biden was a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory and that a jury would be sympathetic to him, therefore making it nearly impossible to convict him.
When you saw the photograph of the top secret documents laid out on the floor at Mar-a-Lago, what did you think to yourself, looking at that image?
How that could possibly happen. How anyone could be that irresponsible.
President Biden will not face charges for keeping some classified documents at his home in Delaware once he left office. A new report today concluded the president willfully retained and disclosed classified national security information. It included classified documents and personal notebooks he kept as vice president.
Your husband is 81. At the end of the second term, he'd be 86. As his life partner of 46 years, is there a part of you that is worried about his age and health? Can he do it?
He can do it. And I see Joe every day. I see him out, traveling around this country. I see his vigor.
But I think there is also a potentially very damaging political headline that we really need to take a beat to talk about as well. And that is, simply put, that the president is an elderly man with a bad memory. If you look through the report, and I'm just still going through every page of this, but if you go through it, there is a detailed explanation here for why the special counsel's office decided not to bring criminal charges against the president. And at various junctures, the report mentions the president's memory and memory issues being a factor. For example, it says the president's memory was significantly limited both during his recorded interviews with the ghostwriter that Evan was talking about in 2017 and in his interview with our office in 2023. It also makes a reference at another point in the report, Mr. Biden's limited precision and recall during his interviews, again, with the ghostwriter and with the special counsel's office. It also talks about how President Biden could present himself to a jury as a, quote, sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. Now, I don't have to tell you that these headlines sort of write themselves as far as sort of the opposition and critics and Republicans are concerned. This has been an area of targeting by Republicans and the president's critics for a while now. Even this week, we have been covering the fact that the president has had a number of misspeaks, a number of missteps when he was recalling events from the recent past, when he was talking about meeting with different world leaders, mixing up their names and who they were, who was alive at the time and not. So in this way, I think it is just an important sort of framing and ammunition that this report offers to the president's critics.
Here are the facts. Joe Biden, established by this report, Joe Biden retained sensitive classified documents after he left the vice presidency.
Marked classified? Or?
Yes, marked classified, highest level, top secret SCI. They related to our international affairs, to war plans, to foreign relations. He knew it. He knew it. He's on tape after he's out of the vice presidency saying to his autobiographer, the classified documents are in the basement. He knew it.
But he just denied that. Exactly. That was a key part of the report. It's the second sentence in the report, and he just denied sharing that with the ghostwriter. And I just looked at this closely. They had recorded conversations between Biden and this ghostwriter.
Exactly. Ultimately, what Robert Hur says in this report is essentially the technical elements of a crime, it appears Robert Hur is saying were met. But what he ends up doing is looking at the soft factors. And you're allowed to do that. You have to do that as a prosecutor. And he takes into consideration things like what he says, and maybe this is overstated, maybe not, I'll leave that to the political folks, but he says essentially Joe Biden would have created a sympathetic picture in front of a jury. He had memory issues, he had age issues, and that goes into was he able to form the mental intent here?
The memory lapses that President Biden is described as having in this report, this is not the first time anybody's raised issues of President Biden's acuity. And in fact, twice this week, President Biden referenced European leaders, conversations he had with them in 2021 when both those European leaders had long been dead. He confused Macron with Mitterrand. He confused Helmut Kohl with Angela Merkel. Are you really acting as if there's nothing to these issues or these concerns?
Well, I saw from the White House counsel that they disputed this recollection of the interview. And I will tell you, Jake, I was in Israel on October 7th, as you know, and President Biden was nice enough to call me. And I can tell you, this was the day before that interview, I can tell you he was sharper than anyone I've spoken to about a very complex geopolitical urgent issue.
I know there's some attention paid to some language in the report about my recollection of events. There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died. How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business. Let me tell you something. Some of you have commented, I wear since the day he died, every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of... Every Memorial Day we hold a service remembering him, attended by friends and family and the people who loved him. I don't need anyone. I don't need anyone to remind me when he passed away or passed away. Now, thank you, and I'll take some questions.
President Biden, something the special counsel said in his report is that one of the reasons you were not charged is because, in his description, you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president. I put this country back on its feet. I don't need his recommendation. It's totally out.
How bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad I let you speak. That's
your memory has gotten worse, Mr. President?
My memory is not gotten. My memory is fine. My memory. Take a look at what I've done since I become president. None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed. How'd that happen? You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on.
Mr. President.
Voters have concerns about your age. How are you going to assuage them? And do you fear that this report is only going to fuel further concerns about your age?
Only by some of you.
Mr. President, clear up criminal liability today. But do you take responsibility for at least being careless with classified material?
I take responsibility for not having seen exactly what my staff was doing.
So basically it said that at this point Biden's brain is so worthless that jurors would view him as the senile old grandpa down the street. But of course in 2024 America, we call that senile old grandpa president. I'm going to finish off this video with Karine Jean-Pierre being asked about this report after it came out, and then her attempting to defend the blocking of the audio tapes.
What do you say then to Americans who have that concern and they see 3 times in just a couple days the president getting the name of a leader wrong and referencing somebody who is deceased?
So look, again, as you just stated in your question to me, I just laid out other leaders in their community or elected officials who have done the same. So it is not uncommon.
When you're in meetings with the president, how often does he confuse names like we've seen him do?
I have not seen him do that.
And multiple times this week, the president in his public remarks talked about having conversations in 2021 with European leaders who were deceased at that time. So can you give us an explanation into why the president was referring to those people in those conversations and what exactly happened there?
So I know there's been a lot of focus on this. I want to just step back for a second and just kind of think really kind of top level of what the president was talking about when he was having, as he tells the story about having these conversations with world leaders, which are obviously important conversations. He was underlying the January 6 events in 2021, what happened, the message that it sent around the globe, around the world, to our leaders, to world leaders, how dangerous it is, our democracy, how important democracy was.
First, President Biden decided to block the release of the audio of his interview with the special counsel. And obviously the letter from the White House counsel laid out the reasons about the concerns of being used for political purposes. But that seems to imply that the White House is concerned that these could be politically damaging. So why not just release them, especially with this White House's commitment to transparency?
Well, for one, the transcripts, as you all know, is already out there. I think the second piece of this, too, to note is that the Attorney General made it clear that law enforcement files like these need to be protected. And so the president made his determination at the request of the Attorney General. So just want to make that second point that I made really clear. The Department of Justice and the White House counsel's office have provided extensive written letters, as you all know. I'm sure some of you have read this on this issue. And like I said, that you have seen. And so when it comes to anything further or any specifics, obviously I would refer you to my colleagues at the White House counsel's office. But those are just to make that second point again very clear, this was taken by determination. The president took the determination at the request of the Attorney General, and the Attorney General wanted to make sure that that law enforcement files like these must be protected.
But does the White House feel that the recording, the audio, could be politically harmful, since that point was also raised in the letter?
So I don't want to dive into the specific point that you're making about the politics. I would have to refer you to our counsel's office on that. But there were determination that the president took very seriously on behalf of obviously at the request of the Attorney General, and that's how this decision was made.
When we pushed all these programs, I said I'm going to be a president for everybody, whether you live in a red state or a green state.